and welcome to Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. This morning, we'll discuss on how will Indian cricket captain MS Dhoni be remembered after he announced retirement from the long format of the game that he did yesterday. And we'll also talk about the ill-fated flight of AirAsia. But let us begin with the headlines. Political moves to form government gather steam in Jammu and Kashmir. PDP President Mehbooba Mufti is slated to meet Governor N.N. Vohra today. Mamata Banerjee voices strong dissent against land acquisition ordinance, says her government will never implement it. Divers, ships and aircraft search for missing AirAsia Flight 8501 in Java Sea. Over 40 bodies found so far. And a day after India's most successful Test captain announces he'll focus only on ODIs and T20 formats, cricketing world stunned by news of MS Dhoni's retirement. Well, Mahendra Singh Dhoni retired as India's Test captain yesterday. The stunning announcement came after India drew with Australia in the third Test at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. BCCI claims Dhoni wanted to quit one of the formats. The board said it is a well-thought-out decision to allow Dhoni to retire from Tests.
It's gone for it.
Dhoni is on the first time that Bolt straight away, but
that's what we expect to see from the skipper of India.
Mahendra Singh Dhoni has retired from Test cricket with immediate effect following the drawn Test against Australia in Melbourne.
And Mahendra Singh Dhoni has shown that he can dive as well. So he's out for 9, 176 for 5.
Virat Kohli will take over as the captain for the final Test in Sydney.
Style has gone right. That's a close appeal. Yes.
The announcement was made by the BCCI through a press release. It cited the strain of playing all formats as the reason behind Dhoni's retirement.
But it's okay that he can just take a couple long off for 6.
In recent months, he suffered from fitness issues, missing 5 one-day internationals against Sri Lanka. His hand injury also sidelined him for the first Test against Australia in Adelaide.
महेंद्र सिंह धोनी हमेशा से एक अच्छे क्रिकेटर ये और एक अच्छा ह्यूमन बीइंग की तरह आपको नज़र आते हैं और जिसे हम कैप्टन कूल हमेशा लोग कहते हैं, वो कभी एक्साइट नहीं होते फील्ड पर और जिस तरह से उन्होंने आज इच्छा जाहिर की कि वो अब ओडीआई और T20 पर ज़्यादा फोकस करेंगे। ये लास्ट टेस्ट मैच है ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सामने, जिसके लिए विराट कोहली को कैप्टन बनाया गया है। आगे तो सेलेक्टर्स डिसाइड करेगी कैप्टनशिप के बारे में।
The decision, as sudden as it is, came as a shocker for the cricket fraternity. What has baffled many is that why Dhoni is not leading India in the last Test before calling it a day.
Take that. Just hit you all around the clock. That one was... You just back yourself. He's charged the...
Dhoni didn't explain about the decision during his post-match conference, but it has raised questions among former cricketers.
I was surprised that Dhoni has taken a decision to retire from the Test cricket, but I'm sure he must have taken this decision and he must have thought about it quite a lot.
भले उनको रिटायर होना था टेस्ट क्रिकेट से, तो कप्तानी छोड़नी थी, तो कप्तानी छोड़ के एक प्लेयर के नाते खेलते हो। एक टेस्ट मैच बाकी थी और तो टीम के लिए अच्छा रहता, क्योंकि विराट कोहली भी यंग है, अभी कप्तानी कर रहे और एक सीनियर कप्तान टीम में रहे तो काफ़ी फ़ायदा हो सकता है टीम के लिए। तो मेरे ख्याल से प्रेशर तो होता ही है, मगर जिस तरह से धोनी ने अब जो नक्की किया सीरीज़ के बीच में, वो थोड़ा मैं सरप्राइज हो गया कि क्यों एक मैच के लिए क्यों किया नहीं।
But the tributes began to pour in soon after the announcement. Sachin Tendulkar led a flurry of praises for Dhoni, the only Indian captain to have taken the team to the #1 spot in Tests as well as World Cup wins in both shorter formats.
And the way in which he's conducted his cricketing career and the personal life is very, he's playing his cards up to the chest. So I only wish him that and thank him for taking Indian cricket to a very highest level in the international level. And I personally miss his batting at #7.
And I think he has taken the right decision in the interest of Indian cricket, as well as he wants to focus on the ODI and T20, which clearly shows he is going to focus on the World Cup and win us the World Cup in 2015 as well.
Out of the 90 tests he played, Dhoni led India in 60 matches. He finished with the most test wins as India captain, beating the previous record held by Sourav Ganguly. As a batsman, he scored close to 5,000 runs, which included 600s and 33 half-centuries. He also claimed 9 dismissals in his last test, the best performance by an Indian wicketkeeper in the longer format. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Dhoni is on the first time that Bolt straight a wee bit.
Well, reactions poured thick and fast as the cricketing world absorbed the import of Dhoni's sudden announcement. Let's take a listen.
2015 वर्ल्ड कप अगले साल है फरवरी मार्च में, तो उसको संतुलन बनाए रखने के लिए एकदम उचित समय में उन्होंने संन्यास की घोषणा की है।
भले उनको रिटायर होना था टेस्ट क्रिकेट से, तो कप्तानी छोड़नी थी, तो कप्तानी छोड़ के एक प्लेयर के नाते खेलते हो। एक टेस्ट मैच बाकी थी और तो टीम के लिए अच्छा रहता, क्योंकि विराट कोहली भी यंग है, अभी अभी कप्तानी कर रहे और एक सीनियर कप्तान टीम में रहे, तो काफ़ी फ़ायदा हो सकता है टीम के लिए और कप्तान के लिए भी।
इंडिया में रहते जब बढ़िया खेलते हैं, बाहर जाते पता नहीं क्या हो जाता है, तो उनको इस चीज़ को धोनी की वजह से ना करके खुद को सुधारना चाहिए कि पूरी टीम के ऊपर लागू होता है कि क्यों ऐसा खेल रहे हैं। तो हमारी तो यही राय है कि धोनी को अभी और खेलना चाहिए, संन्यास नहीं लेना चाहिए।
लेकिन कप्तानी से यदि संन्यास वो 2 साल पहले ले लेते और टीम में खेलते रहते तो उनके अनुभव का बड़ा लाभ होता, और साथ ही साथ जो नए खिलाड़ी कप्तान बनते हैं, मेरे माइंड से कोहली को ही बनना चाहिए, तो उनको भी उनके अनुभव का फ़ायदा होता।
वो अपना फोकस वनडे और T20 पर करना चाहते थे। सही समय पर उन्होंने BCCI को फ़ोन करके कहा है कि मैं टेस्ट क्रिकेट से संन्यास लेना चाहता हूं और वनडे T20 पर फोकस करना चाहता हूं। हमें भी लगता है भारतीय क्रिकेट के हित में यही अच्छा है कि धोनी वर्ल्ड कप की चिंता करें और भारत को वर्ल्ड कप जिताएं।
All right, joining me for a chat on this issue is the sports editor of DNA, Shekhar Luthra. Shekhar, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Shekhar, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, but of course, now we are looking at a big thing that has happened to Indian cricket. Dhoni has announced his retirement from the bigger format of the game. Yes. But the big question is, how will Dhoni be remembered as a test player and a test captain?
I think in the hindsight, if the history will actually remember Dhoni, that is for 2 reasons. Post 2012 yes. and before 2012. Before 2012, I think he was been seen as the best of the finishers India has witnessed. He would probably be seen as one of the captains who was completely, taken Indian cricket to a new height. Yes. But post 2012, probably there will be a lot of blots on his career. Not just from conflict of interest, but also there is a sealed envelope lying there in the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
If that comes out, if there will be name like, which we all know that number 2 is Dhoni. For what reasons? Obviously, this people have to realize that this is in the sealed envelope, and nobody knows.
Yes.
For wrong dates, for right dates. Obviously, for wrong dates only he has been probed for that. So if that comes out, remember that 2000 episode when Mohammad Azharuddin was probably a bigger name or a bigger player than Mahendra Singh Dhoni on any given day. But what happened to him? He has not been allowed after that to enter any cricket stadium in India. So this cricket is a very, very cruel game. They make you captain, they make you the god of, demigod of cricket, yes. But they also throw you out of your mind. So that's been a problem. That's been a problem that post 2012, yes. When Srinivasan and Dhoni, when they colluded together, when they decided that Dhoni should not be removed, when Mohinder Ramanath talked about this, they even, chucked him out, Mohinder Ramanath from the selection panel. So probably there are a lot of things that Dhoni has to answer to this cricket.
Does that also explain the sudden announcement in the sense that in the middle of the series?
It was going on. It was quite, expected for me. People might be, surprised because they don't understand.
But it was the middle of the series. There's one more test match to go.
He's trying to get an honourable exit. Where would he get that? If you don't win a World Cup, which I feel he should not be captaining India, because there are blots, there are reasons that he has to explain, and if he's still going on with the captaincy in 2015 World Cup in Australia, New Zealand, then obviously there are reasons to feel a little bit worried. But overall, he was trying to find a escape route, where to call it quits. And probably, you know, all these lawyers who charge some hefty fees from Srinivasan and Dhoni, they must have advised him that before Supreme Court again sits after the winter break, because from 5th to probably 31st of January 2015, Supreme Court is going to come up with a big, you know, announcement on what is on the conflict of interest. If that happens, if that report is open, probably he won't even find a, you know, escape route. So this was a good reason to call it quits in the middle of the series, and then see it to be seen as a martyr who has done so much. I mean, I'm not denying.
So
Dhoni has done a lot for Indian cricket, but problem is he has also ruined the Indian cricket a lot after 2012.
So what you're essentially saying is that he still has got plenty of cricket left in him. Like Sunil Gavaskar said, that he could have played for 3 more years.
Again, he could have played till, you know, he's 40, like Sunil Gavaskar. But the problem is, should he be allowed to carry on? That's been a big question. I think if he's quitting from Test cricket, and if there are certain things that he needs to explain to the public, then obviously till his name is cleared, he should not be allowed to captain
But
India.
Shikhar, we have very important World Cup coming next year. In fact, Sachin Tendulkar has also...
You know, this is again a very kind of emotional kind of thing that people are saying. Before Dhoni, there was Sourav Ganguly. He was probably the best captain in India I've seen. The kind of players Sourav Ganguly came up with, you know, from Sehwag to even Dhoni to, you know, Gautam Gambhir, all these, Harbhajan Singh, they have contributed so much. Dhoni got what? Dhoni got all these big names in his team, and then he, you know, conquered the world. It is like an army.
But you can't deny he's the most successful Test captain ever.
He is the most successful captain on Indian soil. He is the worst captain on overseas. He has lost 15 matches, 8 matches, 9 matches on a trot. Who should have, you know, who could have, you know, survived that after that? 1932, India played the first Test. And from 1932 till Dhoni, you know, nobody would have survived even a, you know, trot like 4 or 5 Test matches. He lost so many Test matches. Why did he survive?
And now we have the young and flamboyant Virat Kohli.
You know, only time will tell whether Virat Kohli will be a worthy successor or not. Because Virat, we all know, he's very aggressive, and he needs to, you know, take care of that aggression, because you need to be showing aggression on the right side, on the right moments, not every time, like what he's doing in Australia. But again, he's 25. He will learn it hard way. And, you know, obviously after Dhoni was looking completely disoriented in last couple of matches. You have seen in the last 5 days, till yesterday, he was not the captain on the field. It was Virat Kohli who was setting field. It was Virat Kohli who was taking calls. So Dhoni was lost somewhere. Probably he was thinking about what is going to, you know, there for his future. So his legacy will be again divided, and only history will tell. If his name comes up there, he could be, you know, he could end up like
So what you're saying that you saw it coming, but for thousands of fans out there, obviously
I will only say don't cry for Dhoni. Let time come. Let him explain his, you know, his dates. And if he's free, if he's clear, and if he's, you know, transparent in his what he did, then obviously we should celebrate his.
All right, Shikhar, I'm sorry, but we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us for a chat this morning. All right, we'll take a very short break here. Much more coming up on the other side as well. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break. Now, searchers in Java Sea face a grim task of recovering more bodies after confirmation that the wreckage found yesterday is indeed from the missing AirAsia flight. Now, over 40 bodies were retrieved till off the coast of Borneo Island on Wednesday. While so far there are no word of any survivors, the attention is now on the black box. As the day breaks, crews on aircraft and ships setting off to scan the Java Sea for victims of the AirAsia flight QZ8501 crash. Investigators are now looking for data recorders that will provide clues as to what happened during the 6 minutes between the time pilot of the aircraft made contact with the air traffic control and when the jet dropped off the radar.
Reservoir Sightcraft dan reservoir Sightcraft ini persis dan diakui oleh pihak AirAsia yang bersama-sama saya untuk melihat part number maupun serial number. Kemudian hari ini kita mengevakuasi 3 jenazah.
Besok pagi, baik kapal maupun heli dari laut maupun udara akan dilakukan pencarian besar-besaran.
Singapore has sent ships equipped with sensors to detect pings that may be emitted from the plane's black boxes. Malaysia, Australia and Thailand are also involved in the search. The US destroyer USS Samson has also been sent to the zone.
You know, it's an experience I never dreamt of happening, and it's probably an airline CEO's worst nightmare. After 13 years of flying millions of people, it is the worst feeling one could have. But we stay strong for the families out there to ensure that we can look after them. Even after this incident, we want to keep in contact with them so we can provide the necessary support that they may require after the incident.
So what happened in those last moments? One theory says the plane might have stalled after trying to climb at a speed not fast enough. The Airbus A320-200 aircraft disappeared over the Java Sea on Sunday shortly after it took off from Surabaya in Indonesia for Singapore. Reports said that the pilot had requested permission to fly higher to avoid bad weather, but there was no distress signal. Reasons for disappearance will be a central aspect of the probe amid sharp criticism from global aviation and safety experts. The wreckage may have been found, but new questions abound alongside the need for strong and urgent corrective action. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. All right, Gaurav Raghuvanshi, who's the Southeast Asia transport correspondent with the Wall Street Journal in Singapore, joins us for more on this. Gaurav, now that the search teams have again started their work this morning after the wreckage has been confirmed to be indeed from the ill-fated flight, what really do you think will be they looking at?
For the investigators, it will be important to recover the bodies, and then they have to be handled in a particular way, so they are very sensitive about that. After that, the next priority would be to recover the black box, as well as the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorders, which are the most important, to find out what exactly happened, as those will tell you what happened in the final moments of the flight. So the investigators will look to decipher what's on those black boxes. And it should not be very difficult to locate those black boxes because this aircraft went down in relatively shallow waters. It's only about 25 to 50 meters kind of depth. So even a normal scuba diver can go down there and retrieve the black boxes and other parts of the debris. Then they will try to locate all the floating debris which is there, because that tends to dissipate, and they need to get it as soon as possible. Finally, they will also try to get the whole fuselage. There's apparently a part of the fuselage which is down there under the water. They would want to get that, and the effort always is to reconstruct the plane as much as possible, so that then it becomes easier for the investigators to see and to determine what happened with the aircraft in its final moments. As of now, what we know is that some parts of the fuselage have actually hit the water and they've gone down. So it means that it could mean that the aircraft actually was intact when it fell, and it broke only after it fell. It kind of disintegrated only after falling on the water.
Right. Gaurav, it is the last day of the year 2014. Obviously not a great year really for the aviation industry. Number of accidents. So obviously much lessons are to be learned from the tragedies that have occurred.
This is the third incident involving a Southeast Asian airplane, and the total death toll this year in these three incidents has risen to 699, which is pretty deadly, which has been a pretty deadly year, because you remember aviation safety had been improving, and 2012 was in fact the safest year in the history of aviation with the least number of accidents.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Gaurav, for joining us and giving the updates on that story. Gaurav Raghuvanshi joining us from Singapore there. Let's move on in the bulletin now. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has voiced strong objection to the proposed amendments to the Land Acquisition Act. She says her government will not implement the act. Mamata accused the government of forcefully bringing in the ordinance, terming the land ordinance as a black ordinance and unjust. Mamata said that the situation of current government under Narendra Modi was worse than emergency. Now, her outburst came a day after the government recommended promulgation of an ordinance making significant changes in the Land Acquisition Act. Now, the new act includes removal of a consent clause for acquiring land for 5 areas of industrial corridors, PPP projects, rural infrastructure, affordable housing and defence. And on to some more political news. Well, the picture is still not clear as far as the government formation in Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, even as the Congress advised the PDP to not hurry into a decision. The latter had suggested on Monday that it was open to an alliance with the Congress as well as a national conference. But the BJP claims that there can be no government without its participation.
Amid talks of a grand alliance between the PDP, National Conference and Congress in Jammu and Kashmir, the issue of government formation has become more complicated. The Congress party has said the PDP must think through before taking a final decision on forming the government. The party feels the people of Jammu and Kashmir have given a complex mandate.
मुझे लगता है कि हमें पूरी स्पेस देनी चाहिए मुफ्ती साहब को कि वो सोच समझ के बड़ी सीरियसली सब इश्यूज को देखें, सब कॉम्बिनेशंस को देखें और जो फिर स्टेट के लिए ठीक रहे वो उनको करना चाहिए.
Meanwhile, the BJP claims it has got the biggest vote share and so it must have a major role in government formation. Even though the party leaders will meet the governor on the 1st of January, BJP General Secretary met him on Tuesday.
We have to be a partner in the government here. Discuss all those issues with our alliance partner.
The verdict of the people of the state was declared a week ago. PDP emerged as the single largest party, winning 28 seats, while the BJP was a close second with 25 seats. The PDP and BJP need to find a lot of common ground, while the NC and Congress have announced unconditional support to the PDP. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
And in other news, citizens from France, China and Spain will be getting visas on arrival in India. Now, this is part of the Civil Aviation Ministry's initiative to facilitate visits by foreign nationals to the country. Union Minister for State Civil Aviation Mahesh Sharma made the announcement yesterday in a conference in the national capital. Currently, visa on arrival is available to citizens of 43 nations, including Australia, Brazil, US and Japan.
Encouraged by the spike in the number of tourists from the US and Australia, the centre announced the electronic visa on arrival to citizens from France, China and Spain on Tuesday.
We have taken measures how we can improve. Can you believe that introduction of only a visa on arrival, in 1 month we have got issued 16,000 visas. And if now we have made it to 43 countries. If we increase 5 more countries, it is going to double in 1 month.
The government launched the tourist visa on arrival enabled with electronic travel authorization scheme on 27th of November. The first month of its inception saw 16,000 visas issued at 9 international airports, 3,700 for Americans and 2,900 for Australian citizens.
We are here to give air connectivity to places like Ladakh. We are here to give connectivity to like Kashmir, to northern eastern state, where there are certain no measures of going to even those areas for even day-to-day activities. So we have got social commitments and obligations to that part of our society, that part of our nation's activities also.
The proposal for visa on arrival to Chinese citizens has been rejected several times, but the decision to OK it this time is expected to net the government more revenue. Visa on arrival facility is currently available at 9 international airports including Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Thiruvananthapuram, Kochi and Goa. The government plans to expand the facility to some airports in the northeast as well. Rajkamal Rao's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Delhi had relatively clear skies early on Wednesday morning, but in many parts of North India, cold weather still continues to make life difficult. Now, 5 more people died in Uttar Pradesh last night, taking the death toll to 145 so far.
The cold wave sweeps North India despite night temperatures going up marginally in many places. In national capital Delhi, minimum temperatures settled at 4.5 degrees Celsius, 3 notches below normal. On Tuesday, over 100 trains and 27 flights were either delayed or diverted. Neighbouring Uttar Pradesh was much colder, with Nazibabad shivering at 2.5 degrees Celsius. 3 people died of cold in Barabanki district. Visibility was 50 meter and less in Bareilly, Agra, Jhansi, Lucknow and Varanasi. Jammu and Kashmir also continued to reel under cold. Srinagar recorded a minimum temperature of -3.8 degrees Celsius, while Leh was the coldest with temperature of -15.4 degrees Celsius. The Met Department says the weather will be dry and cold over the state during the next 24 hours. Normal life was also disrupted in Punjab and Haryana. Amritsar was the coldest with a minimum temperature of 1.4 degrees Celsius, while Narnaul in Haryana shivered at 1.5 degrees. In Rajasthan, the mercury dipped to -1.8 degrees Celsius in Mount Abu. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, eminent journalist and Magsaysay Award winner B.G. Varghese died in New Delhi after a brief illness. He was 87. Varghese was the editor of the Hindustan Times newspaper from 1969 to 1975. He was also the editor of the Indian Express from 1982 to 1986. Varghese was also the information advisor to Prime Minister Indira Gandhi from 1966 to 1969, but he was critical of her for imposing emergency in 1975. Now, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari condoled his passing away, describing Varghese as amongst the most versatile and influential intellectuals of our country. The Vice President said, and I quote him now, "In his departure, we have lost a fearless commentator and a prolific writer who made valuable contributions to the national debate on important issues of public interest and concern." Quote unquote. And relief for BJP President Amit Shah as he got a clean sheet from the CBI court yesterday in the Sohrabuddin Sheikh fake encounter case. Shah was greeted with garlands and fireworks by BJP workers in the national capital after the court's decision. While BJP called it a vindication of its claims on the matter, the opposition parties raised questions on CBI's credibility once again.
It came as a big relief for BJP President Amit Shah when a special CBI court acquitted him in the Sohrabuddin Sheikh fake encounter case. The CBI had accused Shah of conspiracy to kill Sheikh and his wife a decade ago in Gujarat. The state police had claimed that Sheikh had links with terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. Amit Shah had to quit from the post of Gujarat's Home Minister in 2010 after he was arrested in the case, only to be exonerated on Tuesday.
Court has accepted our contention that Amit Shah has been framed politically in this case.
This is the first major exoneration by the CBI after its new boss Anil Sinha took charge. His tenure follows Ranjit Sinha's tainted term, which ended on a controversial note too. Now the agency has been facing questions over its credibility. After its clean sheet to Amit Shah, opposition parties raised doubts if the CBI was used for political benefit in this case.
CBI का मामला शक के दायरे में है। सरकार सीबीआई पे दबाव बनाकर इस तरीके के फैसले करा रही है, ये दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है।
Obviously, there's been influence on this, so the case should be taken up to a higher level, and the justice must be done.
However, the BJP is celebrating the verdict and claiming vindication of its stand on Amit Shah's role in the case.
We are extremely elated that the truth has prevailed finally, and Mr. Amit Shah has got the kind of a court order that he deserved.
कोर्ट का जो मामला है उस पे हम लोग को इंतजार करना चाहिए था। इससे पहले लोग इतने ज्यादा जो है उछल कूद के बोलते थे, ये ठीक नहीं हुआ ना। अभी कोर्ट का जो निर्णय है उसको हम लोग मान्यता देकर के इज्जत देना चाहिए।
With this order, Amit Shah is a free man and does not have to face any trial. The case against him of criminal conspiracy to commit the fake encounter stands dropped. Sohrabuddin Sheikh's brother said that he would challenge the order in the Bombay High Court. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that's it from me and my team on this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching.